Biden's America. The new president-elect of the United States has people celebrating in the streets from coast to coast. And leaders from around the world welcoming him to the club. How he says he plans to heal a country broken in two.
I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States.
How new Vice President-elect Kamala Harris just shattered the glass ceiling to bits.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
And even though he made a peace offering to MAGA country.
For all those of you who voted for President Trump, let's give each other a chance.
Will high-profile Republicans supporting the president's claims that Democrats and the media are trying to steal the election mean this battle is far from over?
Fight back. I believe President Trump still has a path to victory.
And Cindy McCain is live to share if she thinks more Republicans will get behind the president-elect like she did, and if her home state of Arizona will turn blue for Biden when all the votes are counted. Plus, a brand new View Your Deal. Get ready. Your Hot Topics start right now.
Hello and welcome to The View. It's been a long time coming, but it finally came. And you know what's really remarkable for me is in 2 months, I'll be able to say the next president's name out loud. Joe Biden. So people are dancing in the streets. Yes. All over America, around the world. At my house, he's the president-elect. And Kamala Harris is our next vice president. And here's what they said when they took to the stage to do something you know who never could, rally the country. Take a look.
I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. I'll work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as those who did. Let this grim era of demonization in America begin to end here and now.
Every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities.
Now, I want to bring something up right now. I want to say to all those people who don't believe that Americans actually got out and voted, let me say this to you. When you know who was elected 4 years ago, you know, Hillary Clinton didn't say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right, stop the count. She didn't say, this isn't right, I'm not going for it. She didn't say any of that. So all of you, suck it up. Suck it up like we sucked it up. And if you are not sure that you're comfortable with Joe Biden, do what we did. Find things and then take it to the law. And if the law says it's something to look at it. But from now on, suck it up. Grow the pear for him that he can't grow for himself. Because this is ridiculous. You're not sure that he won. You bringing into question all these Americans who voted legally, came out and stood and voted. How dare you question it? And I imagine that there were some bottles might have been popped at your house, Joy. Did you drink? Did you sing? Did you dance? What did you do?
I did have we had champagne and we all had a great time with some friends in a safe environment. But, you know, there are a couple of things. Number one, if we were going to cheat, if there was going to be any kind of fraud, why not do it in the Senate also? Why just the presidency? Might as well take the whole enchilada. So they're completely illogical right there. Second thing is I would like to congratulate you, Whoopi, having spent 4 years and never mentioning his name once. I think you should get an Emmy for the best non-spoken word, okay? That's another thing. Or a Grammy, rather. Actually, it's a Grammy. I feel like, you know, this morning I said to Steve, what is it that Superman always said? Truth, justice, and the American way is back. It's back. You know, I don't think that people understand. Today, everybody should be happy because just picture in your mind what it could have been if he had won. It would have been the end of this country. It would have been the end of democracy. And I am not exaggerating. I believe in truth. He started out lying, and he would just continue for another 4 years. We'd never get out of this COVID disaster that we're in. We'll never have scientists if he were here. So please, everybody, take a breath and say thank you, America, for saving our country.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sonny, what did you feel? I know you were probably singing and kicking up your toesies too when you heard this news. Did you believe it?
I was. I mean, I cried, you know, because representation matters, and the fact that Kamala Harris is now going to be the first woman in that seat as a vice president and a woman of color. I watched her speech with my daughter, Paloma, and while Paloma couldn't vote because she's only 14, I could see the hope in her eyes, and it meant everything to me when Kamala said, you know, I may be the first, but I'm not going to be the last. And little girls watching know that there's possibility. And that's really what it meant for me and for my daughter. And so it was just a joyous night. And also, look at the work of someone like Stacey Abrams, who registered 800,000 additional voters in Georgia. Look at that work of Latasha Brown, the founder of Black Voters Matter. Those are two women that took their personal losses in politics and turned it into activism and action and helped this country. I am so proud of them. I know Latasha personally. She's a friend. I'm just so proud of their work, and I'm proud of Black women once again being the backbone of the Democratic Party.
91% of Black women.
And by the way, Black men, 80% also. Black men, 80%. And so collectively, you know, just to see that Black vote, you know, Donald Trump never wanted to say Black Lives Matter, but he knows Black votes matter now, right? So I was just, just ecstatic.
What about you, Sarah? Were you quietly jumping up and down, not trying to wake the kids up when you heard?
Well, I was traveling for the entire day, and when I landed, I right away wrote my husband. I was like, what's it looking like? And he said, you got to see these speeches. And when I watched them, I found myself getting more emotional than I realized, because I took the deepest breath and felt like this weight had come off my chest. And as I saw Joe Biden kind of running to the stage, I felt like we could all stop running. It just was, I remember 4 years ago, after I had voted for Hillary Clinton and I had to suffer through that loss, I remember just waiting for President Trump to step up and say, hey, the election's over, I'm going to be a president for all. And that was beginning of the dominoes falling of what I expected versus what I got. And in this speech, he struck, and Kamala, the most beautiful tone of grace and victory. He didn't spike the ball in the end zone. He stopped and kept reminding people. The one time he mentioned President Trump's name was to say, for all of you who voted for President Trump, I'm going to do my best to represent you too. This is not a red state or a blue state. It's a United States. He kept talking about how the mandate of this election was that in D.C., we all need to start cooperating. That's what he heard. And he called for everyone in Senate to do the same thing. It was the most beautiful example of what we haven't had in so long that I felt myself kind of feel lighter, and I keep waking up reminding myself it really happened. I feel hopeful, and unlike what we got in losing in 2016, people that voted for President Trump are getting a unifying message that says he's going to do his best. Kamala's going to do their best. They're going to represent you too. They want to bring everyone together, and that's not something we got in 2016. So I stand here happier, hopeful. And in the throes of a pandemic, when we have every reason to be depressed, this was the celebration we all needed.
Yeah. Hey, Anna, I know you had that bottle of wine. Cha-Cha was running around. You had a storm out the side the window, a storm on television. When did it hit you that this was the news you were hearing?
Well, you know, I've been telling you all for days to snap out of it that this was looking good. But listen, Whoopi, I was struck when it finally got called by the networks. I was struck by this lightness of being I felt. And, you know, I've been personally attacked by Trump and his minions for 4 years. But I'm a person with a platform and I'm a person with a voice. There were so many communities, so many people that felt the same way. And I think that's why you had this impromptu eruption into the streets all over America. And then to see Kamala, they couldn't pronounce her name. Remember when they couldn't pronounce her name? Well, now they're going to have to pronounce Madame Vice President. And there was this picture that for me was so poignant of all the vice presidents beforehand who were all white men, and then Kamala standing on the other side, and it just it lifted me. It gave me hope. And I want to thank black women. They were the MVPs of this election. I want to thank Latinos and Latina women who came out despite a huge campaign of disinformation. Navajos, the Navajo Nation, 97% for Joe Biden. They had to ride 2 hours on horseback in places like Arizona. So it's, you know, I'm just, it's like this is the first week in so long that I wake up with hope, with joy, with happiness, with this unbridled lightness of being. And I think it's what you're seeing all over America. And thank you, Joe Biden, for being inclusive. Thank you, Kamala, for recognizing those whose backs you rode to bring, you know, to come here. Thank you to those people who didn't lose the hope and didn't lose the faith and democracy. I mean, it's just, oh, happy day.
It's true.
Oh, happy day.
I had no idea how enraged I had been all for these last 4 years.
Me neither.
Really, when I started crying, that's when I knew. And I want to tell you, foreign leaders were elated. They know this means a return of U.S. leadership. You know who has become a crybaby? The crybaby in Wawa Chief. It didn't go our way. Hillary did not whine. Hillary did not whine. She did not say we need a recount. She said, okay, you won fair and square, even when we knew the Russians had been in there. She did not say, well, I should be president now. She didn't. She did what you're supposed to do. If you don't win, then you say, okay, and you fight harder next time, which is what's happening. So there are 73 days before they become the president and vice president of the United States, 73 days. Do you know in Al Gore, in 2000, Al Gore had an actual case, and the difference in Florida, because the Republicans keep bringing this up, the difference was 500 votes, okay?
In one state.
And it went on in one state. So when I hear these people saying, you know, when I hear the Republicans saying, you know, we have to recount, listen, suck it up. Suck it up. This is the United States of America. When our guys win, we got to suck it up. When your guys win, we got to suck it. We each have to do what we have to do. That's the American way. So let's at least try to be respectful. Because if you're not going to respect the fact that all these people came out and voted, you're basically saying you don't care about the American democracy. That's what you're saying. All of y'all who say, well, I don't know. You know. Suck it up. We'll be right back. Kamala Harris isn't the only female politician who won last week, and we want to shine a light on the women who are changing the landscape of D.C. and America. Take a look.
This year, a record number of women are running for Congress.
2020 will be remembered as the year women smashed the glass ceiling wide open. At least 135 women will now be serving in Congress. 13 non-incumbent Republican women just won House races.
Republican women are doing it all across the country this election year. It's just exciting to be part of history.
The Republicans did a wonderful job of recruiting strong conservative women.
This was a monumental win for diversity and inclusion.
This is our moment.
Cori Bush will become Missouri's first black congresswoman. Yvette Herrell becomes the first Republican Native American woman to win a House seat. Stephanie Bice becomes the first Iranian American to serve in Congress. And in Delaware, Sarah McBride will become the nation's first openly transgender female state senator.
Change is always possible.
The road to the White House has been an uphill battle for women. From Shirley Chisholm, who ran for the Democratic nomination in 1972, to Geraldine Ferraro and Sarah Palin, who ran as vice presidential candidates. Not to mention Hillary Clinton, the first woman to capture a major party nomination for president. But this never stopped women from organizing and mobilizing and forging forward.
My job right now is to fix our democracy, to make sure that any person who wants to vote in America who is eligible has the right to vote.
100 years after some women secured the right to vote, and 55 years after the Voting Rights Act was passed, comes another barrier-breaking victory.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
Kamala Harris becomes the first woman, the first black woman, and the first Asian American woman to be elected as the vice president of the United States, the first woman in the highest level of government.
It's been a long time coming. But let women also share in the leadership of this country. I'm so grateful.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It brings tears to my eyes and joy to my heart.
And it's also bringing lots of joy to the next generation of black and brown girls and girls all over who are finally getting this message loud and clear.
You could be president.
So I'm thinking about the generations of women, black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women, who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all. But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
And there you have it. That's what we want you to know. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I gotta ask you all this question quickly because we don't have very much time for it. Question is he really going to go quietly? I'll start with you, Anna.
Well, Whoopi, look, all of these attempts, right, at calling into question the integrity of the elections, it's like it's being run by the Keystone Cops. I don't know if you guys saw over the weekend, but they were going to have this press conference at the Four Seasons, and I guess they screwed up and they scheduled it at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping. So off goes Giuliani to the back of this landscaping store that's right next to Fantasy Island Adult Bookstore and across the street from a crematorium. And the first witness that Giuliani calls up is a child sex offender who served time for exposing himself to children, okay, in the 90s. This is the kind of operation they are running. They went to a landscaping store to hold a press conference instead of the Four Seasons. It's over. I mean, hit the road, Don.
Sonny, what about you? Is he going to leave quietly?
He's not going to leave quietly. I don't even know if he's going to concede, but we know that the electoral, formal vote of the Electoral College is on December 14th. And so that really is sort of the deadline date for the transition team. What is concerning me, Whoopi, is that the GSA administrator, Emily Murphy, has not sort of signed the formal letter to start the formal transition in motion. And that means the funds for that transition is usually a little over $9 million, haven't been put into motion. And so are we going to have a Biden-Harris administration way behind the eight ball when you have, a global pandemic, an economic crisis, a national reckoning on policing and systemic racism? So that really concerns me. They're holding up the money.
What about you, Sarah? Is he going to
I don't think he's going to go quietly. No, I don't think he knows how to leave quietly. But I also think that it's a good time for the entire media to pivot from talking about him, because as Biden and Harris have this whole coronavirus force, we should follow that guidance and stop giving him a platform, because he wants to scream louder and we don't need to let him.
Right. What about you, Joy, real quick? Is he going to go quietly?
He is the Jennifer Hudson of Dreamgirls. Let's sing it together. And I am telling you,
I'm not going. Okay.
He is going to jail. He is going to jail.
Cindy McCain took a courageous stand that would make her husband, John, quite proud, we think, when she crossed party lines to support the man who is now our new president-elect, Joe Biden. But that's not the only reason why we're fans of hers. We're very happy to welcome back to The View Cindy McCain. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for everything you've done. You know, we've been talking about our new president, president-elect all morning, and were you knocked out by his speech on Saturday? And were you surprised by what you saw happening in the streets of this country?
Well, I'll start with the streets. I was thrilled, like all of you. I saw it at the same time all of you saw when they announced it. And it was moments later people poured into the streets. It's wonderful because we saw not just an outpouring there, but we also saw a voting electorate that turned out in mass. No matter what party you're for, the kinds of voter tallies that we had were amazing, and that's always good for democracy. As far as Vice President, now President-elect Biden, his speech, I expected it. That's the kind of man he is. The kind of speech he gave is just who he is, and the kind of president he will be. So I loved every second of it. I actually watched it and rewatched it online.
Well, your husband, John McCain, lived by a code, country first. And you endorse Joe Biden because you believe he's what's best for our country right now, not your party. What can the Biden administration, in your view, do right off the bat to prove that he is the right person to run this country?
Well, he's already doing it. He's put together a COVID task force to deal with this pandemic that includes and should include scientists and experts from around the country and around the world. We have this administration sorely not only did not pay attention to it, but kind of blew it off. And so I'm grateful that it makes me feel good and safe to know that my next president will have my back on this COVID pandemic.
So important. You know, so in 2008, your husband, Senator John McCain, gave a very gracious speech when he conceded the race to President Obama. Let's hear a little of it, and then we can talk about it.
I urge all Americans who supported me to join me in not just congratulating him, but offering our next president our goodwill and earnest effort to find ways to come together, to find the necessary compromises, to bridge our differences, and help restore our prosperity, defend our security in a dangerous world, and leave our children and grandchildren a stronger, better country than we inherited.
So far, we have not heard any hint of concession from Trump. What do you hope happens in the next few days? Do you think he'll concede?
That's probably the $64 question. I would hope that our president would do exactly what is right for this country and concede in a gracious, polite manner. That's what's good for the country, and also asking Republicans to do the same to help support this president in a new administration and do what's right for the country, not what's right for our party. And I'm hoping, I'm a hopeful person. I pray quite a bit about this. We'll see what happens.
Now, President Trump was extremely cruel to your family. How much do you think the unrelenting attacks against your husband's legacy hurt the president with voters? And how do you feel about people crediting your endorsement with why Biden did so well in your home state?
My husband had a great attitude about that because he was alive when some of this started. And he laughed it off. He said, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And that was great advice to me. What I think happened was not just what what my husband's influence, but the fact that this administration has done so poorly on so many different things, to start with the pandemic, then our military, leaving our allies on the battlefield, pulling out of treaties. I mean, all those things combined is what really, I think, made most people want to vote for Biden, and also look at and hope for a president who will put country first, and that's what I believe people were looking for.
Cindy, I was, and it makes me emotional because I was there that night with you and John when he gave that concession speech, and I've missed his voice so much during this election. I know you have too, but I have a question because when you came out for Joe, I saw your timeline, I saw your social media. You were getting some vicious attacks from Republicans, some people who had supported John in the past. So I'm wondering, do you think there's still room in the Republican Party for people like you, for people like me? And I also want to know if you would consider a role in the Biden administration, because Secretary McCain sounds pretty damn good to me.
Most of all, right now, what I want is for this country to be no longer divided, but work together. That's the reason I endorsed Joe. All the other stuff is absolutely, it was unnecessary, but it doesn't matter in the scheme of things. What matters is that we do the right thing for our country. As I do sit on the transition team, and I'm very proud and honored to do so, and my job is to help put good Republicans into places within the administration. This is an administration that's going to be all-inclusive, and there is a role for Republicans in the administration. Our party, on the other hand, I think that what we will see now is probably a bit of a change. Our party was always the party that was the party of inclusion. Years ago, during Ronald Reagan administrations and so on, we were the inclusive ones. We were the party of Abraham Lincoln. And we've gone so far awry on what our values are as Republicans that it's time to step back, slow down, and stop this, and go back to our core values with regards to our Republican Party. I'm hoping that happens anyway. But yes, I do think there's room in the party for everybody. There should be room in the party. We just have to stick it out, I think, until we get better leadership.
I agree. Hey, Cindy, don't go anywhere because we have more questions to ask you when we come back.
Okay. We are back with Cindy McCain. Sunny.
Yes, well, Kamala Harris also made history as not only the first woman vice president-elect, but also the first woman of color to hold the job. Cindy, what do you think this means to women and really more importantly, little girls everywhere?
Well, it signals to little girls like my newest granddaughter that they can do anything. Yes, you can be vice president. Yes, you can be president. That should have been something that should have been our moniker all along, and unfortunately it wasn't. I just am so excited about having Kamala there. I know her. She's a wonderful woman. She really works on human rights issues, which I love. And I think as a country, we're very lucky to have her.
Well, yes, we are, for sure. And I think that, God forbid, if anything should happen, she can take over in a heartbeat because she's really smart. So senators who hitched their wagon to Trump, and they know who they are, they ended up doing really well on Tuesday, including Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. And it continues, the sycophancy. What do you make of those high-profile wins?
Well, again, those folks, I mean, all politics is local, so that was always what we had to remind ourselves. It's all local. And in those cases, that their local communities and their states felt that they were the right one to sit in that position. It all, in the end, it'll all wash out, because I believe that soon-to-be President Biden will be the kind of person that will work across the aisle and bring these people into the fold so that everyone has a voice, a rational voice, and a civil voice with regards to legislating and making important decisions for this country.
Well, I hope so. But, Arizona did flip one Senate seat from red to blue, with voters choosing Democrat Mark Kelly. He was an exceptional candidate. What does that win mean, though, for your state? What does it say about the way Arizona is heading? It was kind of edging into purple. I think it's starting to look a little blue.
yes, our state has changed a great deal. There's obviously an influx of newer, young people that are coming in from across the nation, and that influences the voter. And in years past, this is one thing that people seem to forget, and I'm talking about years and years and years ago. Most Arizonans were Democrats, but voted Republican. And so I think what we're seeing is a change in the cycle, certainly a change in the face of Arizona, and the fact that the Latino community has a great influence now with regards to the future of not just Maricopa County, but Arizona.
Now, before we go, we obviously need a grandma update on baby Liberty. How is our newest little View baby, and how is Megan doing?
Oh, Megan's doing great, and little Liberty is just the best. I obviously have not been able to hold her yet because of COVID, but I FaceTime and do all kinds of things so I can see her. She's glorious. She really is. We're so blessed to have her.
She's adorable.
The last time you were,
I know, she's just the
yes,
cutest.
she is.
It's really cute.
Is. And the last time you were here, we talked about the passing of Roberta McCain, and she's going to be laid to rest at Arlington today. So we're sending big hugs to your family. And thank you again for coming by this morning to talk to us. Cindy McCain, you are everything we want you to be. It's fabulous.
Thank you. Can I say to all of you, your input and your face with regards to the Biden campaign, and I know you weren't campaigning, but your thoughtful talking of the issues really helped out, I think helped Americans understand what was going on. So I want to thank all of you for being a part of this campaign as well.
Thank you. We'll be right back.